Okay, so my name's Hamish. I'm going to begin by asking you some questions about your daily use of technology. Alright, so first things first, do you do much exercise?
Recently I do much exercise because I'm really into doing sports, especially in football and into the gym.
Okay, thank you. And can you swim?
Yeah, I can swim. I learned to swim since I was a secondary student, to prevent to be drowned in the water.
Okay, sure. And are there many places to work out in your neighborhood?
In my neighborhood, there's a lot of facilities for me to working out, like the gym. There's a lot of gyms now in my neighborhood, and there's a football. There's a football stadiums for me and my friends to play in the weekends.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Are there any sports you used to play when you were younger that you don't play anymore?
In the past, so since I used to play volleyball until I have my back injury, and then I have to stop playing volleyball because it's used my lower back too much for to use force to be jump high.
I understand, yeah, nice.
Yeah.
And in the future, are there any sports you'd like to try that you've never had a chance to?
If I have a chance in the futures, the sports that I want to try is basketball, because basketball is quite popular in my town. Like in the 3 years recently, they play basketball like very very much evenly in my schools or my neighborhood.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. And finally, do you prefer watching sports or playing them?
That depends on what I watch and how I would play. If I have choose to playing sports, I would play when it's have a high competitive opponents. Then I wanted to be playing that. I don't really to join in that game, and I would prefer watching when it's Manchester United's matches. Yeah.
Fair enough, that makes sense. Okay, thank you, Fun.
Yes.
We're going to move to part 2 now. So here is a pad, and I'm going to give you this task
Yes.
for your part 2. Okay, so here is your pen, and you will have 1 minute to take some notes.
Yes.
Off you go. Thank you. And you can begin. Thank you.
If I have to recommend you to the place that you should stay in, I would recommend you Dallas City, because Dallas is a very beautiful city which has a lot of flowers and beautiful sceneries. And then I have the atmosphere there is very cool and fresh, and I can like getting out of the crown cities like Ho Chi Minh cities. Yeah. And I could stay there for a week. I can stay there for a week because a week is a very good period to having a vacation and to relaxing and relieve all the stress. Oh, if I have to say the advantages and the disadvantages, the advantages is in that cities is the atmosphere are very cool, and you have many places for you to play and hang out with your friends. And the disadvantages, like for me and literally my friends, that is the cost for living in that city is quite expensive for us. But it's not expensive as Ho Chi Minh cities, but it's kind of expensive for us for spend on the hospitalities, on food, or in transportations.
So, Pham, we're now going to move to part 3.
Yes.
So, my first question for part 3 is, when people in your country take holidays, what kinds of places do they like to visit?
Can you repeat the questions for me, please?
Sure. Yeah, when people in your country take holidays,
yes,
what kinds of places do they like to visit?
From my observations and 16 years of living in my countries, I think that people that often will go on holidays on like weekends and like big ceremonies like Home King's ceremony. Yeah, that is the time they have like national rest day, and I think they would prefer like going to the beaches because of maybe because there's many activities for them to do in the beaches more than mountainous areas. Yeah, then maybe they're cheaper then and easier to go than the mountainous areas.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
And as you can see, in Vietnam, there are many attractive tourist destinations like Hoi An, Ninh Bình, Phu Quoc, Halong Bay. When large numbers of tourists visit these places, can that bring any benefits to the local people?
Yes, I think it would they could brings a lot of benefits for the locals. That's easy to say. That is make like demands a lot of jobs for the local people in the for the tourists, and especially the specialty. The locals can sell like merchandise or food for the tourists and gain like profits from it.
Yeah, I agree. And what are some of the downsides then? What are the drawbacks of tourism?
That's hard questions, but what is the drawbacks means? That is
the downsides, the disadvantages.
The disadvantages, like the disadvantages. Maybe I think that is people would spend a lot of time and they could be like they misbehavior. They can litter or anywhere in the tourist and do harm to the sceneries of that tourist place.
And do you think that happens a lot?
Yeah, I think this happen a lot in my country, and they have to improve like through the mindsets or through the educations.
Yeah, so and you think those tourists, would you say they're probably local or international tourists?
I have to say that is a local tourist. Yeah.
Okay. And apart from education, can you think of any other ways that that problem could be solved?
Any problem could be solved by education. Like they can teach the new educations how to behave and how to protect the environment, and then they can gain benefits from it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Well done. Good job. Okay, so Pham, I'm going to give you some feedback now.
Yes.
In IELTS, we have 4 areas. We have fluency, we have vocabulary, we have pronunciation, and we have grammar.
Yes.
Beginning with your fluency, I would say you did a good job with fluency, especially towards the end of part 1 and then part 2 and part 3. At the beginning, I would say one thing that you could improve a little bit is just to extend your answers a little bit more, okay?
Yes.
However, you did, like I said, towards the end of part 1, you did well in part 2, and in part 3, you did extend. Finally, fluency is not only about speaking smoothly, but it's also about the coherence, so the organization of your answer. So one piece of advice I would give you with that is in speaking part 3, if you can give 2 main ideas, it might be beneficial. For example, you mentioned that people in Vietnam love to go to beaches, but not so much mountainous areas.
Yes.
Nevertheless, as you know, Sapa and Dalat are incredibly popular tourist destinations. So my recommendation for you would simply be, oh, well, many young families like to go to the beach because it gives their kids an opportunity to play in the sand and do many outdoor activities. On the other hand, for teenagers and young couples, especially from big cities or hot areas, going to the mountains is often a good way to get away from the stresses of strains of life and maybe experience a romantic atmosphere. Yeah. So my recommendation for part 3 is just try to give 2 ideas if you can, rather than just 1.
Yes.
Nevertheless, your fluency today was good. Coming on to your vocabulary, I would say moving forward, vocabulary is the biggest area you can improve. Nevertheless, I have many good examples of vocabulary. So gain profit is a lovely collocation. Competitive, component, atmosphere are good examples of less common vocabulary. Hang out is again a nice collocation. So you have lots of good vocabulary in there. You did make 1 or 2 mistakes. For example, you said the cost for living. Yeah. The collocation is the cost of living. For example, you did say I have an injury. Yeah. But in English, we would typically say, I got an injury. Yeah. Nevertheless, in vocabulary, we have 2 sides. Okay, we have variety and accuracy. I would say your accuracy was very good, and your variety was pretty good. Yeah. But unfortunately, English vocabulary is enormous. So just for the future, if you're asked questions about the advantages of tourism, if you can use more economic academic vocabulary, like creates job opportunities in the hospitality sector, or can generate revenue for the local economy, those kind of things, then that will boost your vocabulary a little bit more, okay?
Yes.
Coming on to your grammar, good news is you're very accurate with some parts of grammar. For example, many students forget their plural nouns, but when you use words like flowers and beaches and gyms, you're using very clear plural nouns. Secondly, you're attempting conditionals. So for example, you said, if I have, I want. That is a good example of first conditional, which is a nice complex structure. Nevertheless, with grammar, there are still some things you can improve. So for example, a few times you use to with verb ing. For example, you said to working, to having, to relaxing. Yeah. And in English, of course, the minute we use to, we need the base verb, okay? So to work, to have, to relax. So look out for that one. Secondly, one piece of grammar advice I will give you is you used a couple of words, recently and since. Just be mindful that when we use recently in English, it's usually with a perfect tense, okay? Yeah. So you said recently I do, and later on I think you said recently they played. Actually, if you can change that with recently I've been playing, or recently they've played, then you would have present perfect continuous and present perfect. And that would give you more variety of grammar, okay?
Yes.
So like I said, there are many good points with your accuracy. You have some good variety with the conditionals, but if you can add some present perfect and present perfect continuous, again, that will boost your grammar score, okay? Yeah. Finally, coming to your pronunciation, I honestly think that your pronunciation is probably your strongest point today. So when you use a long word like basketball, I can very clearly hear the long sound bar, like basketball. When you use a phrase like depends on, I can very clearly hear you linking those words together. Yeah. So in terms of your pronunciation, you are 100% clear. Yes. You have nice vowel and consonant sounds. You're showing connected speech and intonation. So you have many wonderful features. I'll just give you 2 small fixes with pronunciation. Yes. When you use the word crowded, there is a bit of a habit among some people to say kind of crowd, but it's actually got the extra sound, so like crowded. Yeah. And then finally, we do have a word in English, specialty. Yes. But when we talk about the local food and the local handicrafts, actually instead of specialty, we use a different word which is pronounced speciality. Okay, so speciality would be the kind of clear pronunciation for that word, okay?
Yeah.
So overall, Fun, I would say you're in a good position with your speaking, and your speaking would probably come out at around 6.5 at the moment.
Yes.
The biggest ways to improve it, as I mentioned, are two main ideas in part 3, if you can. Keep building your academic vocabulary, especially in regard to economics, and try to incorporate a little bit more variety of tenses, especially when you're using recently or since, because they require perfect tenses, okay?
Yeah.
But overall, you did a great job, Fun.
Yeah.
Well
Thank
done.
you so much.